time for a redux, according to Francis Ford Coppola, of my top 10 films of all time, because I did one a while ago, and I've changed one of the films, and kind of just wanted to be like, hey, so I've changed it, and also just to give you guys an idea for my newer subscribers of what my favorite films of all time are. Mostly because the other video wasn't really that viewed, so it's hard to say if anyone really knows or cares. But hey, we're gonna do it. So I've got them all up on my letterbox in my favorite films playlist, as it is. So we'll just start from number 10, shall we? Can I view this in a different light? Yes, I can. Oh, yay, now it's structured. Cool. So to be fair, I've probably given all these films 5 stars as it is. Probably because of obvious bias, but also because of just me being able to understand its cinematic importance. Also, if you hear a dog barking, sorry, that's Rex. Noah decided to walk the other 2 dogs on my day off, and now he's barking, and it's annoying. So, yay. Makes this video even more commercially viable. So, we'll start with number 10, which is Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. I know, strange choice of all of Tarantino's films. Why the hell is Death Proof? I just love Death Proof. I've loved it ever since the first time I saw it. I saw it when I was on, like, SBS 2. They were having, like, a Kurt Russell fest, and also showed The Thing. And, of course, they showed this, and it was just a joy to watch. I ended up buying the... Oh, where is it? Bloody hell, where is it? The fuck? Oh, it's up there. I bought the Grindhouse double feature set, because I found it for like $50 at JB, and I'm like, hey, you know, it comes with both films in their double feature format with all the trailers plus bonus features and stuff, and all these mini posters and all this kind of stuff. It's a great set, so I'm like, hey, beautiful. 10 out of 10 would do again. I also bought the extended edition on Blu-ray because why not? You know, anything that also has just that bit extra with Mary Elizabeth Winstead is a 10 out of 10 for me. So, yeah, there you go. So, number 9, we have John Carpenter's 1982 film, The Thing. This film was one I was always scared of watching since I was a kid. I only watched it maybe... would have had to be in uni, my first year of uni, I'm certain of it, in 2017. I think I just had a day off because I didn't have a job, and I was like, I'm going to watch The Thing. And so I did, and I loved it. And I've watched it several times since then. I've got the Arrow 4K remaster. I just think it's a beautiful film. It's an excellent version of practical horror and, like, Lovecraftian horror, just in its forms of horror, as well as the isolation aspect, all the characters, the production design. It's just fucking everything about it. The soundtrack, mother of God. I wish I had that soundtrack on my phone, but I don't. I love how you can watch it so many times over and over and just get so many different interpretations for so many different aspects as well. It's one of those films that just has that level of joy to it. Also, they mentioned Kurt Russell's in it. Yeah, he's really good. He's in so many terrific films. Have you seen Death Proof? Or The Thing? Oh my god, dude, he's in so many great films. So, let's move on to number 8. From 1977, a terrific year for films, we have my favourite David Lynch film, Eraserhead. Why is it my favourite? I think because it's the most personal film you can get for him. He even clarifies that it's his most spiritual, but of course he'll never elaborate, so who really cares? I love all of his films. I don't even know what my second favourite would be. It could be Blue Velvet, it could be Fire Walk with Me. There were so many good films. It could be Mulholland Drive. See, suddenly it's just like, wow, but it could be that one, or it could be that one, because they're all masterpieces. And this one is just the one for me that just always stands out. I've watched it 4 or 5 times now in different aspects. I watched it on my laptop once on, like, Stan or some shit. I remember I have watched it in an actual movie cinema at the Astor. I have watched it in my David Lynch club at uni. And I have seen the Criterion 4K remaster, which I own, and it is gorgeous. So there are so many times I've watched this film, and all of them seem so unique. It's a film I'll probably never really watch with anyone. I plan to probably show my girlfriend at some stage, but it's like, it's just a kind of movie I don't really know if some people would like, or care for, and I don't know if it's one I want to introduce her to first. I might go like, hey, let's watch Blue Velvet first instead, or something like that. So, yeah. But yeah, definitely a true piece of art right there. Next up, we have number 7 on my list, Interstellar from 2014, the Christopher Nolan film. I love this film as a space epic, as a film about humanity. Its music, its cinematography, and the visual effects and everything. I have the 4K, so of course it jumps to the IMAX shots as well, which are always just a godsend. But then it jumps back to its theatrical, yeah, I'm not big a fan of that, so that it jumps from aspect ratio. But, you know, when you've got cool IMAX shots, why not show them off in as many forms as you can? I mean, The Dark Knight had the same deal, and that's still enjoyable, but that's probably not as much of a... I feel like with The Dark Knight, it uses it more effectively for... in terms of pacing, of editing. So, like, you're not jumping from IMAX shot to theatrical shot to back to IMAX and whatever. Like Interstellar does, so, you know, give and take. But I just love Interstellar. It's a film I will always enjoy rewatching, no matter how old I get and how shitty this world gets. Haha. Oh, talking about theme. Number 6, this one has changed from its previous position. My number 6 film is Swiss Army Man by Daniels. This is just a crazy ass film. I remember I watched Chris Duckman's review of it, and he said that he doesn't want to go into the plot details or anything. It's just a crazy film that people misunderstood when it first came out in terms of screenings. It's a film that's so imaginative and creative in so many aspects, and outside of the interpretive value of so many aspects again, it's just a beautiful, fun film, and it's one of those that I can joyously watch with anyone at any time. Like, I've showed every single family member in my household, and they've all enjoyed it. So, there's a plus. Number 5 on my list is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This one jumped in just recently because I don't know why the hell Good, Bad, and the Ugly was on my list originally, and I was like, oh, Scott Pilgrim's number 11. Why would I do that to myself? Of course Scott Pilgrim isn't number 11. It's number 5. It deserves that spot. It is just... It's a pure joy to watch. It's a pure joy to experience over and over and over again. Again, it's one I can watch with really whoever, and it's just so much fun. Arguably, the ending... alternate ending, this ending, it doesn't really matter. It's all about character, so I don't... Depends on how I feel on the day. Sometimes I might be like, I prefer to watch the alternate ending, so maybe I'll just watch the alternate ending afterwards. But yeah, overall, it doesn't really affect too much of my experience of watching the film. Outside of that, it's just a beautifully made film and a terrific adaptation. So there's that. I do love the comics as well. There are so many aspects as well to a lot of these films so far that I've expanded my own life to some degree. Like, I've not just got the films, but maybe I've got figurines of them. Like, for my favorite film, I have 3 figurines. 4, actually. But some of them I have books, like I have the screenplay for Interstellar. I have the soundtrack and the scores for a lot of these films in physical media. I have upgraded from Blu-ray to DVD, Blu-ray to 4K for a lot of these films as well. Because, to be honest, I love them so much, I want to be able to experience them in their best ability. But I'm not as crazy to go into buying, one-clicks and stuff like that. Not yet, anyway. Eventually. I'm certain of it. Number 4 is my favorite Edgar Wright film, Shaun of the Dead. I have always loved this film since I first saw it. When did I even first see it? I first saw it after Hot Fuzz had come out, I think. Maybe it was 2008, 2009-ish. And again, this is like MA15+. I shouldn't have been watching it because I was a kid. But, my dad had taped it, I think maybe on SBS or something. And he was like, hey, guys, I've got this really cool... This is, to me, Sam, and Noah. It was like, oh, I've got this really cool film. It's quite funny. It's a zombie film. Because me, with horror back then, was a no-go. I was like, don't worry, it's really funny. And we started watching it, and it was hilarious. And of course, the horror did ensue later on to one really graphic scene, which I couldn't watch for the first 2 times I watched it, but have since been able to really just relish in how amazing the scene is. But it's just, I do think it is Edgar Wright's best film. It's, of course, my favourite of his, and I've got a special edition coming in of it soon, but for the most part, it is just an excellent film, and I wholeheartedly recommend it, especially as a start to Edgar Wright's filmography as well. And now we're in my top 3, so we'll start off with number 3, of course. Alien, my favourite horror film, my favourite... I really wouldn't go as far to say my favourite Ridley Scott film, because I don't really have a favourite of his, because he's not really a director who I think has a particular, maybe visual style to do with, to some degree, but he does have a expansive style in terms of allowing the audience to often live in the world of the film. And I like that because, of course, they established that at like the start of Alien, where you're just going around the ship, just kind of looking at things as everything's turning on. It's kind of surreal too, because like it has things that move about and whatever. That's probably because of the cameraman, but at the same time, it's like it's just kind of fun to see this world without any, like, devoid of life, starting to wake up and interact with life and air and so much other stuff. And then, of course, your characters wake up and you start to get to know them, and then the horror slowly draws in, and it's just so well made and well crafted. I have the Blu-ray and the 4K. Honestly, I could rewatch it for... I'm going to be rewatching it for years. But to additionally note, this was the film that scarred me for life. I had watched it when I was a kid, because, again, Dad showed it to us. And he even has a great story of why he watched it. He watched it because he was originally going to see Rocky 2 with his mates, because it was like the last day before school started. And, the screening was booked out, but they had this sci-fi film called Alien running, and they're like, yeah, sure, why not? They had no idea what it was, and they were like 3 years too young to be able to watch it, but the person didn't check, and so they all watched it, and of course, now I get to watch it when I'm below the age of 10, so, yes. Because I've been able to repeat watch it, I've been able to understand more aspects of it. The horror has worn off to some degree, but that's goddamn... The face hugger? No. Keep that fucker away from me. Not to mention, I still have nightmares about the franchise. Yay. Luckily, not facehuggers anymore. For some reason, xenomorphs just linger in my nightmares. It's weird. Anyway, so it's had that lasting impact on me. But as a film and its analysis, like, especially with its, like, kind of the sexual nightmare of the film, with the H.R. Geiger stuff especially, which I have a whole book on, just... is just so... like, so interesting and so amazing in terms of such a subtextual horror that you might not get on many viewings, but when you see it and it's very there. Oh, other dogs are barking. Why does everyone walk the dogs on days when I want to film? Yeah, and I've seen Alien in the theatre. I saw it at the Astor as well, I think it was just a regular version of it, because I saw the 70mm special edition the regular edition of Aliens afterwards. I do think Alien's a better film, in terms of tone and pacing and character. Aliens is a terrific film for a completely different genre, because it's action sci-fi over horror, still has horror elements, but it's action sci-fi, whereas Alien is pure horror and pure dread and pure nightmare. And now we're up to number 2, which... God, I gotta remember all these films. What is this? Oh, yeah. Another number 2 film. Evil Dead 2. I love this film as well. It's another one I've rewatched so many times. I've upgraded to the 4K remaster. I watched this in, I think, year 11 or year 12, and because my friend had suggested it, he said that you don't have to watch The Evil Dead, but you can go straight into Evil Dead 2, but I'm more of the kind of person of, if it's a sequel, I'm going to watch the first one. And so I bought The Evil Dead, which I think is a marvelous, terrific, nightmarish film, and then you have such a different film for its sequel, which is still very similar. Evil Dead 2 is quite similar, but in terms of tone and character, it's very uniquely different. In terms of filmmaking craft, especially, it's definitely an improvement from the previous one, but the previous one was like a masterpiece. So how do you improve from a masterpiece? You just Sam Raimi it, and then boom, better film. Even though Sam Raimi did the first one, so it's like almost ironic to say that. Overall, I love Evil Dead 2. Again, I've watched it a few times. I usually watch it once a year, just for the fun of it. I think sometimes it starts to wither on me in some degree, because it's a horror comedy, the pacing can be a little off. But outside of that, it's a pretty perfect film, and obviously a terrific sequel. But if you want to go straight horror, go with The Evil Dead. Or even Evil Dead 2013. It's really up to you, but I'd prefer The Evil Dead. And then if I want to go horror comedy, because I want to also alleviate some of that horrifying stress, you go with Evil Dead 2. Yeah, boy. I don't even need to look at number one, to be honest. Number one, my favourite film of all time, is Blade Runner 2049. Do I need to say much about this film? I've obviously watched it multiple times. I have the Blu-ray, I've got the 4K, I've got a special edition coming in the mail, I've got a big book on it, I've got the bloody spinner as a figurine, I've got 3 of the pop vinyls, I have the soundtrack. I adore this film. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. I remember watching it the first time in theatre. I was in the very back row, packed theatre, and all of the scenes that like the audio is kind of disturbed because of the mostly with Wallace. So all like the really key plot heavy kind of scenes, I couldn't really hear any scene that pretty much has water in it. Couldn't hear what they were saying, but it didn't really affect me because I was hearing so much of the background and so much of the ambience and the world that they were living in that it intrigued me into it. A few months later, I watched it at the Astor in 4K, and I'm like, oh my god, this is my favorite film of all time now. And I've only ever watched it in 4K ever since, and it is just incredible. I think it's better than the first one. I still think the first one is a masterpiece as well. But yeah, I'd highly suggest watching Blade Runner 2049. Hell, I'd suggest watching all of these films. Otherwise, why would I have mentioned it? So, yeah, I don't really think there's much else for me to mention about Blade Runner 2049. It is so fun to say 2049. Because a lot of people say 2049, but I like saying 2049. It sounds more futuristic, which is weird. Also, I love the little shots that they had, set between the years. Also, I've got the comics as well for Blade Runner 2019, which are pretty good. So, there's so much to expand on. It's a great universe. And I really hope they make another film, even if it doesn't connect to these characters, because, to be honest, it doesn't need to. It's just that universe is so full of potential. Yeah, outside of that, that's all for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. Check out my film shelf playlist and whatever else is on screen, and subscribe. What are your top 10 favourite films, or what is your favourite film? You don't have to have a top 10, you might have a top 3 or a top 5. I have like a top 20, but I'm not going to go into all of them. So, yeah, tell me yours. I'm interested. I like knowing what other people think of the films that I adore, and then I want to kill them. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that kind of person. I like hearing other people's opinions and takes. It's interesting. It's fun. So, yeah. Adios.